Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of this F1 25 Joshua Pearce career mode. This is part 48 of this series. If you did miss the last episode, it was Oscar Piastri who won the Bahrain Grand Prix in dominant fashion after dispatching Lando Norris at the start of the race. And when Lando tried the challenge for the win, the pace just wasn't there because the APX GP car just absolutely shone through, especially in the hands of Sonny Hayes as well. And we were battling with Sonny. It was a bit of a strategy game for that one, but once we're outside of that DRS, Sonny just sailed away into the distance. But taking a look at the championship standings, so Sonny Hayes leads the Drivers' Championship by 9 points to his teammate Oscar Piastri. Then it's Lando Norris in third, a further 23 points behind, and myself in fifth position, only 1 point behind Lewis Hamilton, with Apex GP leading the Constructors' Championship by 60 points to McLaren, and then Ferrari sit in third, 16 points further behind. And heading straight into the performance charts for this race weekend for the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix, it's Apex GP bringing in more upgrades this weekend, which is pretty heartbreaking because this is a circuit that I really do enjoy, and it just means that if I put in an absolute belter of a lap, it probably just won't be good enough, which is quite upsetting, but it's very close. However, is McLaren, Red Bull, Ford, and Ferrari just behind us. And then Mercedes is leading the best of the rest pack, with Williams making good ground on Aston Martin, Honda as well. And Audi Sport and the Racing Bull Fords at the tail end of the field, still yet to make proper inroads for the rest of the pack field. So let's go straight into qualifying.
Welcome to the Jeddah Corniche, one of the fastest circuits on the calendar. But let's see who will be fastest of them all. We're about to set the grid for the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. Yes, it's qualifying.
This is one of the best tracks on the calendar for hot lapping. I absolutely love this circuit, and as I said in the pre-race show, it is pretty much one of my favorite circuits. This is going to be a place where I can really put down a belter, and that's something I don't want to do right there, is at the final corner. Just tapping at the inside wall with my front left corner of the car. It's only ever going to cause a little bit of damage, and my first flying lap was alright. I put it up into third, but you can see that one mistake around here really upsets the car, and through that section of corners, it just was not very clean whatsoever. But in the final sector, though, I have gained a massive amount of time. I'm now 3/10 up on my last lap. Despite that massive mistake that we just saw, I stay in 5th position, but by the time the checkered flag falls, it is Lando Norris, the fastest in qualify 1 by 2/10 ahead of Charles Leclerc. Then it's Piastri in third, a 10th further behind myself in 7th, and knocked out in qualifying 1 to pull Aaron by 400. Both the Alpines of Pierre Gasly ahead of Lance Stroll, Liam Lawson, Carlos Sainz, and Gabriel Bortoleto not making it to this next part of qualifying, as we now round out our first flying lap here in qualifying 2. It's a brand new set of soft compound tyres here, and we're going to try and go for 2 laps here on this set of tyres. So the first lap is up into 6th position with a 26.7, so need to up the pace just a little bit. And once we saw in qualifying 1 on the second lap, the grip wasn't quite there, and you can see a big snap of oversteer trying to go through that very quick section in the first sector of the lap. And now rounding out the final corner, we're up again on our second flying lap, so there's definitely pace to go for 2 laps, but we won't have the time to do it once again. And so now on another set of brand new tyres, which now leaves me only the 1 set in qualifying 3, so it really puts the pressure on for the next session if we're able to make it through. I've had to go out because I wasn't feeling very safe in 9th position, and where was this lap going to put us? Because we were up by over half a second, and that is 3rd position for ourselves. So Piastri now fastest in qualifying 2 by 200ths ahead of his own teammate Sonny Hayes, myself in 3rd, Lando Norris in 6th, 800ths behind me, and look how far down he is, only to be 800ths behind. And then knocked out is Albon, Colapinto, Verstappen, Antonelli, Hadjar, and Zane Maloney not making it to the shootout here in qualifying. And as I said, I've only got the 1 lap for me to try and get a good one in, and it has been a fairly decent lap here. It hasn't been scruffy, but I have been holding back just a little bit, trying to not throw it in a wall or anything like that. And that lap, on a little bit of a conservative size, was in the end a P5 for myself, with Sonny Hayes on the pole position for Saudi Arabian Grand Prix, and it's an Apex GP front row lockout as well, with Oscar Piastri in 2nd. Our teammate Lando Norris in 3rd, misses out in the front row by 400ths of a second, and Charles Leclerc alongside himself.
We've got fast sweeping corners under the lights and 20 racers all ready to write their name into the quickly growing history of the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. So let's take a look at the topographical map of the Jeddah Street Circuit. As you can see, a number of challenging corners for the drivers to master here. We'll see just how much the teams have benefited from their time spent in practice this weekend. And like many street circuits, this track has the potential to punish drivers that get it wrong. Let's hope we avoid any safety cars today. It's time to take a look at our starting grid for today's race. Sonny Hayes lines up on pole position, and Oscar Piastri completes the front row. Moving on to the rest of the grid, we have Norris, Leclerc, Joshua Pearce and Ocon, Russell, Behrman, Doohan and Alex Albon, Colapinto, Verstappen, Andrea Kimi Antonelli and Hadjar, Maloney, Aaron, Pierre Gasly and Lance Stroll, Lawson, Hamilton, Sainz and Gabriel Bortoleto rounds off the grid. And now it's time to head down to the track. And alongside me today, a man who I'm always pleased to see join me in the commentary box, Anthony Davidson. Now, you're the racing driver in this partnership, so tell us about this racing driver. Put us in their shoes. How are they going to be feeling?
Well, you've got to be prepared, Crofty. Before you even step foot inside the car, you've got to know, you've got to have a pre-race game plan. You've watched videos before you get into the car of previous races gone by. You know where you have to place your car if X, Y or Z happens in front of you or behind you. So having this clear game plan is absolutely essential before you get in the car.
All right, let's have a quick radio check, please. Radio check. Okay, here we go. I know what you can do. Don't let me down.
So for today's strategy, we're going to go for the one stopper, which is going to be a risk because it is a very high speed track, which means it is by nature of the circuit a very high tire wear as well. So we've got to make sure we nurse the rubber that we have underneath this car as we now get ready to start the Grand Prix. It's 5 red lights and we're off for the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. And look at the start that we've had compared to Charles Leclerc. It's been absolutely magnificent. But look at this. They're 3 wide for the lead going into the first complex of corners, and they still remain 3 wide. Lando Norris, he's actually going to jump Oscar Piastri. So Piastri has gone from second position, drops down to third. Our teammate has split the 2 Apex GP cars, and it's Sonny Hayes still leading the way out in front. And look at that, already trying to pull away, but behind George Russell is not trying to let Esteban Ocon get away too easily, but trying to go side by side through there is only ever going to lose you time. And now it's the 2 Haas Toyotas looking at that. They are trying to hound in this side, inside this top 10 here. They're trying to get themselves in front of Alex Albon in that Williams, but back towards the front here because Lando Norris has now just been overtaken by Oscar Piastri. So this is actually already a massive story here in this Grand Prix, because now it means with the clean air, these 2 very quick Apex GP cars have the ability to just drive away off into the nightlight here in Saudi Arabia and behind, out just inside the top 10. It is a big squabble here because it is Colapinto in the second Red Bull Ford trying to hold off the 2 Haas Toyotas who now find themselves in 10th and 11th and not both inside the top 10. But look at this. Lando Norris, he is not going down without a fight because he's got himself back past Oscar Piastri. But Piastri, as we saw in real life, is he going to go for the overtake through this weaving back section of the circuit? Yes, he does. What an overtake from the Australian in the Apex GP car, and gets himself now up into second and has been able to pull away just slightly by 3/10, nearly 4/10 of a second now, going on to a lap 3. But this squabble now for the final places inside the top 10 is not done as of yet because Jack Doohan is trying to take this position away from Franco Colapinto here in that Red Bull Ford. And so this is excellent stuff from Jack Doohan to be able to try and get himself ahead of what is meant to be a very quick car, you know, nearly on par with ourselves on the performance charts. But look at this. We're now trying to go for the move on Charles Leclerc. We went around the outside at the final corner. We weren't able to make it stick, but we've got the DRS. We've got the slipstream. We're using the battery, and we will just sail by to get ourselves now up into 4th position. So that was a very opportunistic overtake for ourselves. We saw that Leclerc was struggling in the straight line and being able to get ourselves immediately ahead. And look at that, already half a second gap that we have over Charles Leclerc. And now that we cut to the end of, well, nearly the end of the 4th lap, it is now pretty much out to a second, that gap between myself and Charles Leclerc, as now Colapinto and Alex Albon battle it out. And then behind them is the 2 Haas Toyotas also going side by side, trying to squabble it out for the final points paying position. It's Behrman versus Doohan, it's Colapinto versus Albon, and just up ahead, it's Russell versus Ocon. You just don't know where to look here at Jeddah to work out who is battling who, because it is just on absolutely everywhere. And look at this, Max Verstappen in the Aston Martin Honda trying to split now the Haas Toyotas, does so successfully. Back on board with ourselves though, because we're going to get our first objective of the Grand Prix, and look at the gap that we've been able to pull on Charles Leclerc. It's still hovering about the 1 second mark, but crucially, we're catching up to Lando Norris. And look at that, the Apex GP cars on the minimap, they have not been able to pull away probably as quickly as they would have hoped, and that means that this race is still absolutely on to try and get some better positions. And look at this, the first objective that we've got is to try and stay ahead of Charles Leclerc, and this is going to become much more easy if we're able to get ourselves by our teammate Lando Norris around the outside, gives us the inside for turn 2, and as easy as you do it, that is us now up onto the podium and ahead of our teammate, and we are feeling confident. I can confirm I am feeling very confident at the moment with the car that I've got in this race trim. In qualifying, the car definitely felt a bit nervous, but here in the race trim, it is feeling magnificent. It is absolutely awesome to be driving in this car. And look at that, we're also very slowly gaining on Oscar Piastri as well. The gap was over 3 seconds. It's now hovering at the 3 seconds and around some parts of the track. And look at that, we're able to gain half a second just by using a little bit of extra curb than what probably the AI is able to do. And you can see there as well, we're feeling very confident, but we're also using up the tyres a bit quicker than we probably would have liked, because we're already getting the warning from Mark that these tyres need to last. And at this point in time, we are now boxing a lap earlier, which is now only going to extend the hard compound tyre stint towards the end of the Grand Prix. So throw away the lap 12 pit stop. It's now lap 11 that we're going to be boxing to give ourselves a pretty decent second stint on those hard compound tyres, which is going to make this a really interesting tyre gap, but also opens us up to the possibility of some sort of undercut on Oscar Piastri if we're able to get ourselves within the range. 3 seconds behind. I don't think we're in the range as of yet, so we're going to have to keep working at it and maybe sacrifice our tyres just a little bit now, knowing that we are going to be coming in for an early pit stop. So we're going to have to keep an eye on our strategy and how Delta to Oscar Piastri to work out if that's going to be a viable option, because you can see now, fast forwarding to lap 8, to watch Esteban Ocon get himself by Charles Leclerc. So Leclerc's definitely got no pace because he's falling down the order, now down into 6th position. But look at the gap between myself and Piastri. It is now only 2.4 seconds, and around some certain parts of the track where we are much stronger than Oscar Piastri. Look at that, it's now 2 seconds. So we are absolutely probably on to try and get ourselves within an undercut range. We just need to gain a little bit more time to be able to make that definitely a viable option, as now Oliver Behrman gets himself inside the top 10 in his Haas Toyota, as now we get ready to close out lap 9 here of the Grand Prix, and that's to complete our first objective of the Grand Prix, which was to try and stay ahead of Charles Leclerc, which we have absolutely dominated, and he's over 6 seconds behind us according to the objective Delta there. So that was a fantastic one to open up our account here in Jeddah. But look at this, the gap is now hovering at the 2 second mark. Can we get it to under 2 seconds between myself and Piastri? Because I reckon if we're able to get it under that 2 second mark, I reckon that may just be enough for an undercut. But we're going to have to keep working, because you can see at those certain points where maybe Piastri is a bit better than us, he extends it out to over 2.5 seconds. So it is a very much a cat and mouse game at the moment with the Deltas, trying to get ourselves in that window to see if we can't open ourselves up to that undercut strategy as the battling continues out throughout the bottom end of the top 10. But now we're going to get our second objective of the Grand Prix. It's lap 11, so we're going to be boxing this lap, and we need to try and get ourselves to the back of Oscar Piastri, because I think Mark has now also realised what sort of strategy we might be able to pull off here, which is the undercut. So it's all about trying to get closer, but as we come into the pit lane, we haven't been able to. In fact, Piastri's actually pulled out more of a gap, so this is now going to be really interesting to see where we come out in comparison to Oscar Piastri. I don't think with the time that we lost on that final lap, you could see there as well, the tyres were just absolutely cooked. There's not much left on them. So I don't think we're going to be within that undercut window anymore, unfortunately. But hopefully, we're not going to get too held up behind this lap traffic. And look at Stroll trying to get the traction down. He's got absolutely nothing left on those medium compound tyres. So with our brand new hards, we're just going to sweep around, and as easy as you do it, that is us now up to 14th position. But we're still in a net third position, and here we go. only a lap later. So this is Apex GP now responding to us boxing a lap early. So the Apex GP cars have generally, so far this season, been extending their stints. So the fact that they've actually now gone onto one that was to the lap the same as our original strategy makes me think that they were possibly trying to just cover us off now, and also going for the hard compound tyres. So where is Oscar Piastri? Oh, this is actually going to be really close, because look at that. There we go. We're now going into turn 1. Piastri, he's going to have a better run exiting turn 2. We're going to be side by side. We're going to put the power down with our brand new tyres already up to temperature because we've done the one lap. And we're actually going to be able to get ourselves past Oscar Piastri. That was a fantastic pit stop from our crew in McLaren to get ourselves into this position. But now we're stuck behind Kimi Antonelli and Lewis Hamilton in the Mercedes and the Ferrari. So how is this one going to play out? Because we don't want to sit behind for too long, because then when we get to the DRS zone, we're going to be vulnerable to Oscar Piastri. So we set it down the inside. A very, very aggressive move to get ourselves, and we up into 5th position, and now we've got a car barrier between ourselves and Oscar Piastri. A fantastic overtake for ourselves. Now we have to try and dispatch here Kimi Antonelli to give us the clean air to try and pull away while Piastri is still stuck in the traffic. And here we go, using the DRS, using a bit of battery, and that is us now back up into 4th position. So we have done excellent work here to now put 2 cars between ourselves and Oscar Piastri. So he's going to have to try and dispatch the both of them before he can try and attack us. But here is your race leader, Sonny Hayes. He had quite the lead. He had about a 4 or 5 second lead by the time he was coming into the pit lane over Oscar Piastri before Piastri was in the pit just a couple of laps prior. So how was that pit stop? That was a very good looking pit stop from the Apex GP crew in the pit lane. And Sonny Hayes, he's going to come outside of the pit box and back onto the racing circuit in absolute clean air galore. Look at the gap that he's been able to pull out. So he's had a fantastic medium tyre stint, and by going slightly longer as well, being able to now shorten up that hard compound stint for himself in this second portion of the race. For ourselves, though, we've still got Oscar Piastri behind us. He's over a second behind, which is very helpful. And you can see now we're really on the pace, setting a purple first sector. And speaking of the pace, Mark now wants us to achieve a fast lap time. So he knows that now that if we do push right now and we're able to keep extending this gap to Oscar Piastri, when our tyres go off a little bit quicker than Oscar's, because we pitted that a little bit earlier, we should have the buffer now to get ourselves and hold on to this position. But unfortunately, now this has got me worried, because Mark has just said we've got some sort of issue. So ignore the fastest lap. That's not giving us a point anymore. We have got some sort of issue. I'm praying that in our current position, it is just going to be a DRS failure, because that's generally what it's been, or some sort of ERS issue. That's what it has been so far the last few times. No! It is not that. This time, it is a full-on engine blowout. And that is so devastating. We were on for such a good result. We had played the cards beautifully. We had a good start. We got ourselves into this position. We'd worked so hard. And what do we get for it? Nothing. We get nothing. All we get is a big plume of smoke filling up our visor. So that is absolutely heartbreaking, and I can only imagine now what the result's going to be. Hopefully, because Lando was sitting in 4th position at the time, hopefully Lando can keep a podium, because McLaren, we deserve a podium after this.
The checkered flag flies, and Sonny Hayes today can say, I'm a winner.
I mean, it looked like they were in a different category at points during the race, led every lap. I mean, what more can we say?
From lights out to the checkered flag, this is what they're racing for. It's points and a trip to the podium.
So Sonny Hayes has won the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix to make it his 3rd race win of the season, and Oscar Piastri will make it an Apex GP 1-2 tonight, and with my teammate at least getting a podium for McLaren after my engine failure. But yeah, that was absolutely heartbreaking. Didn't do well in the qualifying, or didn't do as well as I hoped. I was hoping for a bit better than a 5th position, but I was able to get a good start and get past the cars in a timely fashion to be able to get myself into that P2 until the car couldn't make it to the end. But for the rest of the top 10, it was Charles Leclerc, Esteban Ocon, Franco Colapinto, Oliver Behrman, Alex Albon, Pierre Gasly, and George Russell running out the points, with myself the only non-finisher of the Grand Prix, and Sonny Hayes with that extends his championship lead to 16 points ahead of his teammate Oscar Piastri. Lando Norris in third, 26 points further behind, and myself in sixth on equal points with Charles Leclerc, and only 1 point behind Lewis Hamilton, with Apex GP now leading the Constructors' Championship by 88 points to McLaren, and Ferrari sit third, 19 points further behind. And for my driver ratings, the DNF has really hurt because everything except for the pace has lost points, with the experience falling to level 94 and the focus dropping to level 87 for my overall to remain luckily at 95. And then the driver recognition has also taken a small hit, dropping to 52%. But that is going to be all for this episode. If you did enjoy it, please make sure to like and subscribe. And for the next episode, we have our next secret meeting with Ferrari. And after a result like that, this does make talking to them a little bit easier. But back with Apex GP, I had engine issues, but one that really sticks with me is the engine failure in Mexico when I was shielding Sonny Hayes to what was looking to be a first race win and the team's first 1-2. Unfortunately, with the engine failure, that was not to be. And now with McLaren, also got engine issues as well. So maybe it's time to move on from the Mercedes power unit. I've been trying to stick with them because it's what I know, but I can't be throwing away results like that. Anyways, the next episode, we'll be heading to the home of Formula 1 for the British Grand Prix. I'll see you then.